You know when you're about to get Goodwooded, should we say.
I mean, the name Johnston springs to mind. He may train nowhere near the place, but this has been their annual holiday now for about 3 decades, and they've made it pay.
I'd forgotten how good Johnny Murtagh was at Goodwood. And he, in terms statistically, from a large number of rides, he is the best jockey over the past 25 years. 20 winners from 90 rides.
It's a pilgrimage every year to the west. It's something, often a place where you wouldn't meet, the same faces until this time next year.
No coincidence at Husey Road, 40, 50 odd winners there at the festival over the course of the year. You know, you don't get that by just getting on the best horses all the time. He was winning on anything.
William Buick's about the most successful Goodwood jockey at the moment, but he takes a totally different approach, tends to hit the top of the stretch and tip out and then decide whether to go one way or the other.
I think he has the heart of a pea. I think it's absolutely tiny, and I think when he sees the hill, he's going to cry.
I'm not sure any 3-year-old's going to do what Stradivarius did for quite a while.
Hi there, and a warm welcome to this special episode of Inside Track, brought to you by William Hill. Nick Luck with you alongside Andy Holding and Ross Brierley ahead of one of the great weeks in the calendar. Not just the extraordinary pick and mix that is Galway in Ireland, more of which later, but for now, focusing on 5 wonderful days, we hope, if the sun shines, on the Sussex Downs at Goodwood for the Qatar Goodwood Festival, or Glorious Goodwood, as we know it better. That heady cocktail of top-class group races and sometimes unfathomable handicaps, all with the added spice of a track that even if you've got one that's a stone well in, they could easily hit a load of trouble in running. Part of the glory of it, and part of what makes us tear our hair out. But if we backed a winner of one of those big races like the Golden Mile or the Stewards Cup, then we can give ourselves a pat on the back and basically retire for the rest of the season. I'm joking, of course, because we'll just keep ploughing on through as we're about to now. Ross, Goodwood, do you love it or do you love to hate it?
Oh, I mean, you've all of the above. I think you summed it up beautifully in terms of the prestige, the quality, the setting. It is a stunning part of the world. Like he said, assuming it doesn't get too hot and you pass out from all the excitement. But yeah, I mean, I still feel I've got mental splinters from 1 or 2 bets over the past few years where, if you mention certain races, I probably wince before I preview it, because you just know at Goodwood, don't you? You know when you're about to get Goodwooded, should we say? When you're about, you turn into the home straight, you're swinging along, you're on the bridle, but you are on that inside rail, and there are 13 horses on your outside, and you just know what's going to happen. But it is Goodwood. You know what you're going to get, and the best thing about it, I think, if it was just one day meetings at Goodwood, are even more painful, I think, because you don't get another crack at it. So you've got 5 days of agony and ecstasy if you can. If you can stay the course.
And more Group 1 races now, Andy, than we used to have. We've got the Goodwood Cup upgraded to Group 1 for the last few years, and it's brought together a good field again. The Nassau Stakes, and of course the Sussex, which is a terrific race in prospect this year. Just on jockeyship, Richard Hughes was always the past master of Goodwood, but he'd always ride for a bit of luck and would be daring. William Buick's about the most successful Goodwood jockey at the moment, but he takes a totally different approach, tends to hit the top of the stretch and tip out and then decide whether to go one way or the other. So there's more than one way of skinning a cat, but I think you've just got to be decisive.
Yeah, I think you're right, Nick. Yeah, I mean that's the beauty about this place, particularly from a punting point of view. I just think you have to be patient throughout the course of the week. You can get a lot of bad luck. I think you just have to factor that into your betting portfolio as it goes along. I think jockeyship is huge. Yeah, you definitely want to be on the guys that are switched on and have got good records there, and just seem to see the gaps and to judge the pace better than others. Because it definitely is a nuance, isn't it? You know, there's no coincidence at Husey Road, 40, 50 odd winners there at the festival over the course of the year. You know, you don't get that by just getting on the best horses all the time. He was winning on anything because he was just a real good judge of what was going on around him. But like I say, punting wise, I look at Royal Ascot and I look at Cheltenham, and I often think I'm going to win this week. I'll be disappointed if I don't win. I think I've got all bases covered. But coming here, it's kind of like damage limitation. I think by the end of the week, if I've come out of it unscathed, I think I can actually class that as pretty good week. But that's the vagaries of Goodwood.
And you might just restrict yourself to the group races and give yourself half a chance. But there's so many good betting opportunities during the week. Some of the people that have excelled at Goodwood and traditionally do so, Ross. I mean, the name Johnston springs to mind. He may train nowhere near the place, but this has been their annual holiday now for about 3 decades, and they've made it pay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it normally, you get to high summer, the ground is rattling fast, and the Johnston horses, as we saw this weekend, in fact, they start to come alive, and it's strange as well because it shouldn't make sense because the Johnston horses are often prominently, aggressively ridden horses who really put the rest to the sword, and at Goodwood that is often very, very hard to do. It's a track where, apart from the 5 furlong track, kicking too soon will get you beat. Because there's always something flashing down the outside, so it doesn't make sense. Do you think front-running aggressive Johnston horses plus Goodwood? It doesn't make sense, but Goodwood doesn't make sense, and that's the joy of it. So yeah, you've got the Johnstons. I mean, even as well for the sprints, for example, another Yorkshire trainer, John and Sean Quinn, have got an incredible record in the sprint. So I don't know what it is about Yorkshire trainers coming down and putting it up to their southern counterparts, but that definitely has something in the reckoning. And you were talking about jockeyship. I went back and I was looking at the stats from the last 25 years, and obviously your Hugheses and your Buicks more recently, and because obviously he's switched careers now and he is training as well. I'd forgotten how good Johnny Murtagh was at Goodwood, and he, in terms statistically from a large number of rides, he is the best jockey over the past 25 years. 20 winners from 90 rides. 48% of them got placed. He was 13 from 43 in listed or group races. Yes, he was riding good horses. But in 2008, he won the Sussex, the King George, the Goodwood Cup, the Glorious Stakes and the Nassau. And then he's also trained 2 winners at Glorious Goodwood as well from only 5 runners. So, maybe... I know it sounds strange, but I've kind of forgotten how good Johnny Murtagh was because it's been a while since we saw him in the saddle.
Good shout. Right, let's get on with the action. If you have a bet on Goodwood this week, you'll get a free bet on us. All the T's and C's are available at williamhill.com and on our app. And as we record this, we've got the luxury of quite a few of the declarations already in. And for one of those races, the Lennox Stakes, we've got a horse who has got an enviable record, not just in this race, but in pretty much all the races he regularly contests. And 7 furlongs is bob on for him. It always has been. He's the grand old 8-year-old Kinross, back to the scene of some of his greatest triumphs. The moment with William Hill, as I speak, he is second favourite behind John Quill, for whom 7 furlongs might be ideal. The French Guineas runner-up, blobbed in the Commonwealth Cup. Audience, as a bit of an all-or-nothing profile, still the highest-rated horse in the race. Noble Champion, the Jersey winner, Lake Forest, 10 Bob Tony. It's a race of some depth. Andy, how deep do you need to dive into the Lennox to find the winner?
Well, I think the starting point is Kinross, isn't it, Nick? I think you hit the nail on the head with him. A real course and distance Supremo. He's won this race before. Things didn't quite pan out for him last year, did they, in the same race when Audience sort of nicked it off the front. I think that was probably Audience's best ever performance. He looked really dominant that day. Since then, the Audience has gone a little bit wonky, hasn't he? I think he ran poorly over in Maydown last time when we saw him. He's got the cheap piece on for the first time. They might resurrect him, but I think out of the two, you'd certainly suggest Kinross is probably the more reliable. The only problem with him, he's got drawn stall 10. We'll talk about the draw, won't we, in this podcast in the next half an hour or so. But I think it's vitally important to get a good position early. And that's the problem that Ross Orion's got, or he's facing with Kinross. There's no doubt on form and on track form, he's probably the one to beat. But the ground's going to be quicker than ideal, probably, and the draw is enough to put me off. I've actually looked at a couple of slightly bigger prices here, Nick. That is very much my MO when I'm looking at horses here at Goodwood. I don't see anything wrong with Noble Champion's chances. The Jersey Stakes was a good race this year, certainly a competitive one. It was run at a sound gallop, and he defied a low draw as well. Most of the fancy horses were drawn high that day, and he came well clear of those on the far side. And Egg Rourke has always had this horse very much high up on his pecking order. He's always rated him. He finally bounced back to the kind of form that he shows at home, if you like, when he won at Royal Ascot. He has run well here at Goodwood before, so he ticks that box as well. He's got a nice draw in stall 5. I think he's around about 6-1 at time recording. So I think he'll run well. Another one at massive price as well is Witness Stand. Again, another horse that loves it here. He's won here at the festival before, albeit in handicap company, but he's gradually migrated into pattern company, and he just got touched off last night at Chester, having tried to make all the running by Holding. But the pair of them really quickened up well. The time was fast, and I'd imagine he'll get a really good aggressive ride from the front or close to the front in the hands of Holly Doyle. So two horses that like the track, come here in good form, slightly overlooked in my opinion, Noble Champion and Witness Stand.
There is an absolute bucket load of pace on in this race. John Quill likes to be handy. Audience likes to be handy. Quinnell will be up there. Witness Stand will be up there. Who's it going to fall for, Ross?
Well, I mean, it normally falls to Kinross, doesn't it? I mean, I would be worried about the draw if it was any other horse, but he's won from box 1. He's won from box 13. I feel like if he started running 10 minutes later than everyone else, he'd somehow find a way to be involved in the finish. I mean, he's a remarkable horse, and you've just got to. He's the play spot banker, isn't he, Kinross, on day one? He's got to be in the mix. I mean, John Quill could be the class angle. He's got one freak performance over in France on his card where he seemed to defy all expectations by going as hard as he possibly can for 99% of the race and still holding on to the grim end and just getting done on the line. 3-year-olds won from 22 in the last decade. Admittedly, the only one who did win was Sandrine, who is also an Andrew Baldwin 3-year-old. But look, again, I think it's an absolutely cracking race. It is going to be run at a fair clip. I want to know what William Bute's going to do on 10 Bob Tony, because I like him a lot. I mean, Ed Walker is fast becoming my favourite train. Obviously, he's got Noble Champion in here as well. He's just so consistent. He is becoming one of those trainers who clearly has a plan for every horse. The entries and declarations aren't wasted, but he runs plenty of runners and he keeps the horses going and going and going. But 10 Bob Tony, we've seen him once this year. He's got a fantastic record over 7 furlongs. He was running a couple of absolute blinders in group company as a 3-year-old last year, and then he beat Kinross at Haydock last time out. He's a big old horse who's been tried over a mile. You know, he was 40-1, but he ran in the Guineas behind Notable Speech last year as well. But he's rated 112. He's a 4-year-old trained by Ed Walker, drawn perfectly in box 6. He's won his only start this year over 7 furlongs, beating the one horse you have to worry about in this race in the shape of Kinross. And he's got Buick in the saddle. So 16-1 seems daft to me.
Well, we're all trying to take a shoot for the moon here. Even though he's got a bad draw and ran terribly last time, I think Lake Forest might spring back to life here, in common with many of his stable companions. William Haggis's horses are just starting to run well. And with all that pace on, really strongly run 7. His horse who beat Lazat in Australia last year. He's got some excellent form, and I'd be perfectly prepared to forgive him a bad run at York, where he got himself upset beforehand, got himself a bit upset in the stalls, got pinched back at the start, and was never really on an even keel. I think if he breaks kindly and races in a rhythm, he's the sort of horse that could run a big race at a big price. So lots of sort of alternatives to the front of the market, really, in the Lennox Stakes. But I don't think there'd be many people who would begrudge Kinross a 3rd win in the race spread over a 5-year period. Right, you can get the best odds guaranteed online and also in the shop every race, every day at Goodwood. A lot of you will be saying, frankly, we need them because the races are very competitive. And we've talked about the vagaries of the track already. Now, is Illinois the new staying star on the block? Well, he had his wings clipped by the grand old trawlerman in the Gold Cup at Ascot, but that was his first time over a proper staying trip. And can he now step forward and fill the shoes of the mighty Kyprios for this stable? What do you think? Comment below with your fancy for the Goodwood Cup. I'm prepared to take Illinois on at these prices, Andy. I don't know about you.
Yeah, so am I. Look, there's nothing wrong with Illinois' run in the Ascot Gold Cup. You could argue he didn't stay, but you know it was a big stretch for him from going to 1.6 miles to 2.5 miles. He stayed it well enough to beat the rest by a mile. You know, he got some good horses, solid horses, all strung out over Berkshire that day. I mean, horses like Sweet William were literally on their hands and knees. Coltrane, who's 5th, you know, he's a stalwart in races like that. He's gone on to win subsequently. Yashin, the Sagaro Stakes winner, was beaten 128 lengths or more. I mean, it's quite extraordinary. The time figure was amazing. And Trawley Man, like I say, really put him through the mixer that day. He was just on song. He was at his absolute peak. So I don't think you could really say that Illinois tarnished his reputation. I think he probably enhanced it in many respects. I think the 2 mile trip should be ideal. We know he's got a touch of class. He's definitely the right favourite, whichever way you look at it. But I'm in agreement with you, Nick. I think the sneaky one here, and he's not so sneaky anymore. Now he's been declared to run in Scandinavia. I've got a healthy regard for this horse. I actually put him up on my column at Royal Ascot. I'm still seething that he didn't win, even though he finished 5th, and you'd say he was disappointing. But I thought he was the best horse in the race. He went 5 horses wide. He didn't race very kindly on that occasion. Didn't he give Wayne Lorden too much help in the saddle? He was always chasing the bridle, but he just left the impression to me he was bone idle more than anything else. He hit the line very strong. And the cheek pieces that went on first time in the Bahrain Trophy certainly helped him. He was a much more streetwise horse. It enabled him to concentrate and enabled him not to sort of get his mind wandering. And then once Ryan sent him to the front 2 hour, he bounded clear. He won by 8 wickets in a very fast time. The further he went, the better he looked. I actually think he's going to be their next Cup horse. Obviously, they think that already. They're chucking him in the deep end as a 3-year-old. I think Stradivarius was a 3-year-old when he won it many years ago, so it can be done.
Do you know, after Stradivarius won it as a 3-year-old, when he came back and won it again, Ballydoyle ran a horse called Santiago, who'd won the Irish Derby in COVID year as a 3-year-old and was very short priced to beat Stradivarius and ran a very respectable 3rd, but he was running it into an all-timer.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. It's not.
I was just going to pick up again because I think you're right, Nick. But Santiago was rated. He was rated £14 higher than Scandinavia is now. He'd won the Irish Derby and he still came and got beat. Andy, aren't you? I don't know. Are we? Is Stradivarius not just the sort of the freak on the card, and we're kind of you're expecting this 3-year-old will come and do what Stradivarius does, but I'm not sure any 3-year-old is going to do what Stradivarius did for quite a while.
Perhaps, yeah. I just like to say, I just think he's an absolute out and out proper like dyed in the wool style of Scandinavia. He's been waiting for a trip. I actually prefer him to Lambourne in the St Leger. That's the way I was looking at it after when he won the Bahrain Trophy, and the fact that he comes in, he's stepping up to 2 miles. I think that's even more in his ballpark. I think he was 11-2 when the market sort of reformed when the decks appeared, the 8 runners appeared, and now he's down to 3-1. So there's a good bit of confidence behind him, and he also carries my confidence as well.
See, if he was in anybody else's yard, well, he probably wouldn't be as good for a start, but if he was in anybody else's yard, I think he'd be going Voltage or Ledger. But because they're going to run Lambourne under a penalty in the Vulture and run him in the Ledger, and they've got the other horse as well for the Voltage, whose name is flying out of my head, I think they've kind of gone this route with this horse, and I wonder if you're almost leaving your Ledger campaign for the sake of doing this. I mean, it is a Group 1. You hear what I'm saying. I wonder if they're slightly putting a square peg in a round hole, even if he is a stout stayer.
Yeah, but Nick, I mean, look, what does winning the Ledger get you these days? A pacemaker for other horses next year, doesn't it? So it's
a pacemaker
weird
for another Ledger winner. A Ledger winner is a pacemaker for another Ledger winner, maybe. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So who's going to win? Who's going to win this race then, Ross?
Well, I mean, I think the whole talk of Scandinavia is kind of the horse I was most looking forward to is French Master, who clearly has his quirks, but he's got course form. He comes from the Gosdens, who improve these horses time and time again. He's bred to be exceptional. He was exceptional at Ascot, where he was still wobbling about down the home straight. He's still green. The blinkers are on, for a reason. But he just looked the monster there. I mean, Andy knows that the second's a very, very smart horse, and he beat him. He beat him silly in a very, very strong time, and he did it going past nearly every other runner. So I don't know. He's the horse I'm most excited about. He has to really up his game, doesn't he? He's got to up his game. But every horse, well, I say every horse, half the field have to up the game, and the other half have to kind of prove that they're not gone up the game. So, yeah, Illinois is there to be shot at, but I think French Master's the most interesting horse in the race. Doesn't mean he's going to win, but I'm really excited to see him.
I agree. I think he is arguably the most interesting horse in the race. I wonder if on this occasion the value in the race might be don't laugh, because he's not everyone's cup of tea. might be Sweet William, because let's be honest about it. He was given a ridiculous ride, I thought, in the Gold Cup. Now, I realise this was preordained by owner, trainer, and everybody else. All right, we're going to give him a chance. We're going to ride him as though he gets 2.5 miles. It also had the function of messing Ryan Moore around on Illinois a fair bit, which was to Trawlerman, Sweet William's stable companion's advantage. I'm sure that's just a coincidence. But I expect Sweet William to be given a more traditional ride this time at a track which he loves. And I think 2 miles round here is absolutely bang on for him. He's just too big. I'm sure he will be in the 3. And he's just too big a price for my money. And it could be that Mrs. Cooper, who used to own French Master and sold him to Wafnan and still owns Sweet William, ends up, as she often does, having the last laugh. What do you think of that?
So what we're saying, Nick, is that Andy fancies Scandinavia, I fancy French Master, you fancy Sweet William. So Illinois is going to win and win easily. It's probably
yeah. Listen, at least you can't fault us for originality or thinking somewhat outside the box. I mean, maybe the box is the best place to be. Maybe the box is where we'll all be by the end of the week. Who knows?
Don't come on this podcast and expect us to be tipping favourites, basically, is what we're saying.
Yeah, that's the one.
Absolutely.
Jane Mangan will be along later. Don't worry about that. That's all
to balance it out.
Nothing I wouldn't say to your face, Jane. Don't worry about that. There are price boosts on every single race at Glorious Goodwood. Don't forget, with the Goodwood Cup, comments underneath. What did you think? Who's going to win? Is Illinois going to win? Price boost on every single race at Glorious Goodwood. As we have a little look at the Sussex Stakes. Now, obviously, declarations are just trickling in here, but I don't think we're going to be bold too many googlies. Field of Gold is going to be the favourite. Field of Gold has been declared. Field of Gold is going to have a pacemaker who has also been declared. That pacemaker is the Judmont-owned Kirat. 3:05, incidentally, on Wednesday, the Visit Qatar Sussex Stakes. Carl Spackler has been declared as well, the Australian, American, British, whatever kind of horse you want to call him, 6th in the Queen Anne behind Docklands, who is also going to run the Group 1 winner from Ascot. We're expecting Rosalien to be declared, and Aidan O'Brien, we're assuming, is going to run Henri Matisse. So is there any reason, Ross, why Field of Gold is not going to produce a performance of the devastating quality that he did either at the Curragh or at Ascot?
I mean, in capital letters, no, but with an asterisk, and at the bottom of the page, Goodwood, ? Because it's just that's you've just got to have that on your mind all week, haven't you? But in theory, Goodwood should suit him down to the ground. I mean, he, is a horse who can flash past runners in the blink of an eye, as he did in particular back in April at Newmarket, where he really, blew everyone away for the first time. And if he's ridden right, which he will be because he's ridden by William Buick, and William Buick is comfortably the best jockey at this track in modern times, then I mean, we're not going to have a small 3 or 4 runner field. We're not going to have a Canford Cliff situation from a few years ago, and in particular, we're definitely going to have a bit of pace of the race in the shape of Kirat. Now, we've obviously seen at the weekend in the King George and in other races this summer, there's nothing worse than in top class flat races thinking, oh yes, I know exactly how this will be run, and then you start banging your head against the desk halfway round. But I mean, again, I just can't. I mean, I want him to win by half the track. I think he should win by half the track. The horses he's got to beat are good. Like, they are Group 1 horses, but they're not potential generational talents like he looks like he might be. I mean, the Rosalien Docklands form is a bit of a mess, isn't it? Obviously, Rosalien, we wanted to see him in this race last year, so it's nice to see him have another crack and maybe put something into the mix that we were hoping for 12 months ago. Henri Matisse, I think, will be ridden, if he's definitely running, will definitely be ridden to beat Field of Gold a bit more. I got the feeling they maybe thought that Ascot was a bit of a gimme as Field of Gold quickened away into the distance. They thought, okay, we'll finish second this time out and we'll see you later in the year. But crikey, look, I think he will win by half the track. I want him to win by half the track. Buick did get beat on Ribchester in this race, mind, at a short price, but that was soft ground. It was that year where it was horrible weather, and Andrew Balding's 7-year-old came and upset the apple cart. But Field of Gold is better than Ribchester, surely. I I just think he'll win. I hope he wins. I want him to win.
Andy, do you share the simple confidence of Ross?
Yeah, I tend to do. I tend to do so, Nick. It's just like having seen him win at Ascot and what he did in the Curragh, particularly on the clock, and look at his sectionals. He's just basically just got that push-pull acceleration. I don't think the others have got. That's not no disrespect to Rosalie and one or two others in the race, like Henry Matisse. He's just plain and simply just better than them. All the data's telling you that. The visual aspects of his performance is telling you that. And the beauty about it is as well that they'll get stretched. They're not going to be racing a bunch because we have got a pacemaker in there. When they do that, it gives a horse like Field of Gold plenty of room to operate. And there's a good long stretch there at Goodwood to get into top gear, which is what he needs. It's actually longer than it's Ascot, isn't it? Royal Ascot. It's 2.5 furlong running there. This is sort of more like 3.5, 4. So there shouldn't really be any excuses. Even if he's a length or two behind these main players, you know he can cut them down to size because he has got that deadly turn of foot. I remember going back and thinking, going into the Curragh, how unlucky was he at Newmarket? Were we not giving enough credit to ruling court? And the answer has been emphatically in his last 2 starts. He was in the sort of dancing brave Derby category, wasn't he? Of unluckiness. So I think Ross has hit the nail on the head. I think we are dealing with a generational talent. From the betting perspective, it's hard for someone like me to get massively excited about a race like this from a punting point of view, from a column point of view. I'd never put a horse like this up in my column, but I think sometimes you just have to take a step back from that and appreciate a good horse for what it is. And if you're very much a purist, and there'll be plenty of people going to Goodwood on Wednesday to see top class action, he's very much going to float your boat.
Okay, Field of Gold is a bit of a superstar. I do think Henri Matisse might get a little bit closer to him. It is a faster race than the Ascot race by about 2 seconds, which is quite a lot. If they run on decent ground with top class horses and an honest pace. And Henri Matisse is a quick horse. He's got a quick pedigree. Most of his relatives are like Tenebrism, are sort of 7 furlong, 6, 7 furlong horses. He's out of Immortal Verse, who only just got the mile. She was unfortunate to be in a vintage era of milers. So I sort of feel that his natural pace and handiness and the fact that he goes around a bend well will serve him extremely well here. And he's ready to run a big race. But whether that is big enough to foil an on-song Field of Gold, I think Field of Gold will have to just dip down a couple of pounds below his best in order to be defeated. Extra place races at Goodwood with best odds guaranteed all week long. Don't forget, extra place races, best odds guaranteed all week long as we plough deeper into Goodwood week and take a look at the Group 1 that's run on Thursday, which is the Qatar Nassau Stakes. And at this stage, Whirl is the 5-4 market leader for the Nassau Stakes with William Hill. Whirl, of course, who lowered the colours of Kalpana in the Pretty Polly. That form didn't exactly get let down by Kalpana's excellent effort in the King George, albeit over a distance of ground. Kalpana's trainer, Andrew Balding, at this stage has See the Fire in here, perhaps en route to the race that she's going to win this season, the Juddmonte International. And there is some depth here as well, because we've got Sassene, the Coronation Stakes winner, Running Lion, who's likely to make the pace. We've still got Fallen Angel in the race, though she has a variety of targets as we speak at the moment. Difficult race to really get a handle on at the moment, Andy. Have you got an idea as to how you're going to play it?
Yeah, I'm very strong on the 3-year-old here, Whirl. I thought she just completely broke the heart of Kalpana over in the Curragh last time out. And we saw, as you mentioned, what Kalpana did in the King George. It certainly wasn't a backward step. She's come out of that fresh as paint and certainly made Calandagan, or keep him honest anyway in the King George. So I definitely think that's the best form in the race by a mile. I quite like the sort of like the sexy 3-year-olds coming into this race. The way you look back through the history of the sort of Brian Camp and Ballydall in general, Opera Singer, Fancy Blue, Minding, Legitissimo, was it many years ago? If I can get
yeah, David Watchman.
Legitissimo, that's the one. Yeah.
You wouldn't know it, but Andy, an Italian background, that pronunciation was beautiful.
Spot on. Absolutely, completely butchered it. But you get where I'm coming from, that the sort of like the sexy sort of like milers that go through to the mile and the quarter ranks, they tend to come out and top in races like this. And I loved the attitude when she won at the Curragh. very similar to the Lionesses last night. It's not all about flashiness and passing the ball around looking really pretty. If you don't sort of like roll your sleeves and get the job done, then it's half the battle in this game. So yeah, whichever angle you look at it, I think Whirly's very much the one to beat here.
I'm trying to come up with some kind of amusing Hannah Hampton play on words at the moment, but I can't, Ross. So I'll just leave it to you.
I was doing exactly the same. I was going through the squad, thinking Russo. Okay, what else have we got? Okay, but yeah, no, I can't now. Now my brain's completely focused on that as well. But look, again, big race, big football matches, big races are often just very, very tense from start to finish. And this might well be. I mean, it's the race where I want to see the Fire win, because I think she deserves to start eating at the top table properly. She should have won this last year. I think she came from a long way back. It was a glorious ride on the winner. She switched to the inside rail and then had to squeeze through a gap and then got going a bit late, and Oppasinga pulled out a bit more. I think Oisin Murphy would have that ride again 10 times over. She's a fantastic horse, but I think she probably will just run into a 3-year-old miler stepping up, like Andy said, because that every year I kind of think, oh yeah, but is this horse really is this gonna suit this horse? Is that gonna suit that horse? And the 3-year-olds do tend to beat the ones where your heart starts to beat for them a little bit more. I mean, Whirl is obviously very different to your opera singers of this world, because she 100% stays further than this. She's not stepping up and thinking, is she going to get the trip? It's more like, will she have the speed almost for it? But I don't think that'll be a problem. I think Whirl will probably win. I'm talking around in circles here, Nick, because my head says Whirl, but my heart really says Sea the Fire. But as I'm sure you agree with, we'll probably get to see her at her best when she comes back up north later in the month.
I don't know what. Yeah, I just want to back Sea the Fire for the Juddmonte International now. That's my way of playing this race, I think. And
should we do the York? Should we do? Let's preview. Let's do the York preview at the same time. Get them out of the way.
Do it now. Of course, if she bombs horribly and finishes last of 5 or whatever in the Nassau, that's going to look a bit stupid. But I'm all over her for the Juddmonte International. I think that's her. She's a York freak out anyway.
Yeah.
And then it's all in the pedigree as well. And add to that a body of work that's good enough to see her run well. I think this is just a little too difficult this week. But I want to be backing Sea the Fire for the Juddmonte International. That is.
I would just very quickly though. I would say I know she is a York horse, but when we were talking about Goodwood Heroes earlier, I was looking at the stats for the jockeys and the trainers, and in terms of stallions, See the Stars is right up there in terms of top class. The amount of runners he's had, and the amount of winners he's had, and the amount of top class winners he's had as well here. So she might have a York pedigree, but if she'd have won this race last year as well, you might be saying she's a Goodwood and a York horse.
Yeah, but the thing is, I wouldn't be surprised if she went and won quite impressively this week. At which point, what price does she then become for the Juddmonte? I think that wagon will start rolling. She definitely made a challenge sooner than I think he wanted to at Ascot. And that was a bit of a freaky race as well, I think, as time will tell.
Well, I think every horse bar the winner made their challenge. It was like a relay, wasn't it? So you pass the baton, you go, you run out of petrol, now you run out of petrol, now you run out of petrol.
Well, from one high-class Oisin Murphy-ridden filly or mare to another, as we move on to Asfura in the King George Qatar Stakes on Friday, who is currently the 2-1 market leader with William Hill. This Nunthorpe Abbey, I think, is the way, this Nunthorpe Flying 5, I think, is the way they're looking, this team. And she ran well at Royal Ascot, considering she hadn't had the prep that she'd had the previous year, the Aussie mare. Big Mojo is second favourite at the moment. Commonwealth Cup winner Time for Sandals is 13-2, coming back in distance. 8-1 Frost at Dawn, who was pretty unlucky not to win at Ascot. Night Raider seems to just be a short price every time he runs, but continues to run quite disappointingly. We've seen it with these sprints, Andy, this season. You throw the balls up in the air and they'll land in any old order. Is this one going to be similar, or do you see it having a slightly better shape to it?
No, Nick. I think there's going to be carnage here. Yeah, It's a category that has caused me much headache over the years. Always trying to look for an angle in races like this rather than down the front end of the market. Obviously, Aspira's got unfinished business, hasn't she? Just getting nailed by Big Evs last season. And that run at Royal Ascotson suggests he's going on the right path.
I'm just going to cut in slightly, Andy. So you're doing yourself down a bit there. I mean, you were all over American Affair at Ascot, and you did put up a double figure winner. So you picked the right one at Ascot.
But what I'm saying is that's the kind of end of the market I'm looking at in races like this. Didn't quite see Richard Hughes' horse in the July Cup, but I think that's where you need to be looking for races like this. Yeah, and we get around to sort of looking at a horse like Time for Sandals, who, was a big price to win the Commonwealth Cup. But I think she won it on merit. The time was very good. The form has worked out really well since. She did it from a low draw, which at the time almost seemed impossible. But she was miles clear of those drawn in around her that day. She must have been by about 7 or 8 lengths. All the best horses were drawn high. She showed a very, very high cruising speed. We know she's got 5 furlong pace. She ran really well in last year's Super Sprint. And she's won here, or run well here before over the course and distance. The yard can hardly do anything wrong. And I think we're almost underestimating it a little bit because she was such a big price going into Royal Ascot. But I'm very much not taking that view. She's a very, very consistent filly, as you can see by her form figures. I'd be amazed if Time for Sandals, with a good draw on the day, and that's got to be emphasised, we don't know the draw, with a good draw on the day, she'll be right in the mix here.
Yeah, and the thing is, Andy, you look at that Commonwealth Cup, which was much maligned at the time as a bit of a kind of crapshoot because the prices were 25, 28 and 20 and 66. But the runner-up Arizona Blaze has bolted up since. The 4th Saida Darian's bolted up since. Shadow of Light's run a fantastic race, just beaten in the Jean Prat. Whistle Jacket ran okay in the July Cup. Big Mojo was unlucky not to win the July Cup. The 8th Sky Majesties won well in a listed race in Ireland since. Ain't Nobody's run quite well since. Arabian Dusk has run creditably since, and she was 13th. You know, so the form's working out.
Well, say if you actually go back and watch that Ascot race like I did yesterday, and you almost put your hand over the top of the screen and not look at the horses towards the stand side and just look how far that she beat all those good horses you just mentioned that were drawn in and around her from a low draw. I mean, it was quite astonishing. She must have been, like I say, 7 or 8 lengths clear of those in isolation. She beat her little group. She had no real right to win, given that the pace collapsed in and around on the far side. She had nothing to carry into the race for the last 2 furlongs. She did all that running on her own for the last 2 furlongs. And she still beat those aforementioned horses you just reeled off there that have run well since. Quite comfortably, despite, like I say, racing away from the pace. If she would have been drawn towards the stand side rails, Christ knows what she would have done. I think she's just a top class filly, and in a year and in a category which kind of like doesn't really have anything that is as consistent as the day is long, then I'll be surprised if she doesn't put her name into the hat here.
I think she's my straight bat one. I think she's the one near the front of the market I like best. There's going to be, of course there's going to be lots of speed on. It's a 5 furlong race. She could get some serious company, though. We've got the likes of Get It and JM Jungle. If they run in here, it's going to be an absolute burn-up. And you'd have thought that it would give some of those from off the pace a little bit of a chance. Charlie Hills has not had a season to remember. I wouldn't be that surprised if Cardem ran a big race. He's won it before. He's 9 years old. He's got so much ability. His 2 runs at Goodwood have yielded a victory in this and a victory in the Stewards Cup. And he's got no problem travelling at 5 furlong pace still. And I thought that was a perfectly adequate comeback in sort of softish ground over 6 at Newbury, which wouldn't be his thing. So with Ryan Moore booked, I thought if it was a bit of a meltdown, he could just run quite a nice race at a price. Go on then, Ross, give it your best shot.
Well, I mean, you made an incredible case for, like you said, the 3-year-old sprinters, and I think the problem with the Commonwealth Cup almost, Nick, when you say it was a crapshoot, before the race, when you looked at it and you thought, hang on, we've got milers, we've got 5 furlong horses, we've got French raiders, we've got everything basically, but that almost mixed together to make this insane cocktail of top class sprinting, which clearly half the field have benefited from and come out and improved from, but the other one she didn't run in that race, but very similar type, who's a big price, is Celandine, who I thought was very interesting. Again, Ed Walker, I'm banging that drum a little bit, but I still think he's underestimated in the market, despite the fact that he's having an incredible season. And, she was fourth to Big Mojo over course and distance last year as a 2-year-old. She ran an absolute cracker. She beat Time for Sandals at York last year. And then her comeback was behind Saida Darian at York last time out, where she was right on the speed, which normally 6 furlongs at York is absolutely spot on. But the pace collapsed and the first and second came from the back. The other horse that took her on was Rage of Bambi, who came out and beat Cardem next time out and sprang that surprise at Newbury. She's going to come on for that run, surely. And she showed so much pace there. She's got that course and distance form. I think she's a monstrous price. She's at 20... at the moment, she's 20-25 to 1. I think she's a very big price.
All right, those are our thoughts then on the King George Stakes. Let us know who you fancy in the comments. I imagine there'll be about 20 different opinions on this. Do you agree with Ross? Do you agree with Andy? Do you agree with me? Or are you looking elsewhere? Let us know. Pop your comments below. William Hill are paying 6 places each way in the Stewards Cup on Saturday, and you still get best odds guaranteed. Now, it looks as though this is going to be William Haggis's, but I'm not quite sure which way. Do we know how this is going to shake down, Andy? And who's going to get in, who's not going to get in? Who's the likely runner? Elman Jed Almarak?
I would probably say Almarak, but on quality and what he did, but he needs a bit of a miracle, doesn't he, to get in? I think he's something like number 90 odd on the card, so that there's a little bit of a doubt hanging over him. Alma Jed was good at York the other day, but it is York form. I tend to sort of treat that separately to everything else. I just think you need to look at the draw on the day. Most of the recent winners, certainly in the last 4 or 5 years, have been drawn high. So with that information, it's a bit of a head scratcher. I do think Apollo 1 could go quite well here. That's been the tale of the tape with him on the last 2 years. He was runner up a couple of years ago, Amagama Gold. Beat him, and then last year, obviously, this year's Stewards Cup Wokingham horse beat him. He's been banging his head against the wall the last couple of years. He travels really well in these kind of events. His run in the Wokingham wasn't too bad. Yes, he is getting on a little bit, but that come Goodwood, this horse shows up in these big sprint handicaps, and he's around about sort of 20-25 to 1. So that's the kind of horse I'm looking at in a race like this.
What about you, Ross?
Yeah, it is a bit of a nightmare. Almarak, surely. We're going to have to get 28 horse boxes stopped on the way 48 hours in advance for him to get in. I think Elman Jed, it is York form, and he is a York horse, and I think he'll probably go back to York later in the month. You might get neither of the front two in the market running. But again, it's one of those races that I don't want. You can't be backing 3, 4, 5 to 1 shots in the Stewards Cup. So you've got to look at bigger ones. There's a couple that I keep coming back to. One you were saying about Charlie Hills. One is Trefor, who won 2 6-furlong races very, very cosily indeed this year at Doncaster and Ripon, and then 5 furlongs dropped back at Doncaster in a very strange race. Just don't think that suited him at all. But if he hadn't run at Doncaster, I think people would be saying, this horse is he's going to be running all the best 6-furlong sprints later on in the season. Again, he might not get in either. One that definitely will get in, and I'm scrolling down and down and down and down to find his price, is Comanche Falls. And I suggest you watch back that Hamilton run last time out and say if that wasn't a lovely, lovely prep for one of his favourite races, well, his favourite race full stop, then I don't know what it was. He hasn't been seen in this race the last couple of seasons because he's been too highly rated, or they haven't wanted to go off huge marks, but he's down to a mark of 100. He's run behind Trefor and he's run behind Noriko and Double Rush last time out. But just watch that run back. It's a really eye-catching run. I thought he was beating 3 lengths and he coasts home up the hill. He's a horses for courses, horses for races. I think he's going to run an absolute blinder.
Yeah, I thought Holcomb Bay might be the one. He's shown his hand to everybody in the Wokingham, which I think he probably should have won. And last time out over 5, it was a bit sharp, and he got short of room at a crucial moment. I thought solid each way shot for a yard that albeit numerically might not set the world alight. Their horses have been running well at a high level most of the season. So I would go with Holcombe Bay in the Stewards Cup at the weekend. That seems an awful long way off. It'll be here before you know it, and all it remains for us to do is to give you our Goodwood Naps. So I want maximum confidence, Andy Holding. Who's it going to be?
Am I allowed a nap on the next best?
Yeah, of course you are. You can have as many as you like, as long as there's a nap.
Okay. The first race on day 2, the Wednesday, mile and a half, 3-hour handicap. I do quite like these races. There's a horse of Roger Varian's running in it called Sudo. He's only had 4 runs in his career. He was a massive eye catcher at Newbury and a good maiden when things just didn't quite pan out for him. Then he got a handicap mark of 75, which he made complete and utter mincemeat of at Epsom the other day. He won by 7 lengths. He travelled all over his rivals all the way through it, quickened away, won easily. The horse finished second, horse called Navron, has gone on to win very easily subsequently. He's been bumped up to 86, but I still think that's absolute daylight robbery. And he gets in off a very, very lightweight in the opener at mile and a half handicap. And I think he's already been jocked up as well to run. So I'll be looking forward to seeing what he can do over a track which should suit him. Obviously, he's handled Epsom, so he should handle Goodwood. And another one as well, Ross will know this one. I'm hoping I'm stealing his thunder because he might have had it on his shortlist.
Don't do it. You're going to do it, aren't you? I know you're going to do it. You're going to steal my thunder. You really are.
Okay, I'll mention it very, very briefly, and I'll let Ross take over because he's probably done as much as work as I have on this horse. Danger Bay, who runs on the Thursday, is it Ross, or Friday? You actually might know the correct race, but it's the opening race on Thursday, I think.
Yeah, it's the 120.
Ed Bethel trains. Only had 3 runs in his life, but he clocked a big, big time figure when he won at Hamilton, and the form hasn't been let down since. The 5th has won. And a horse called Tiernan finished 4th. Now, Tiernan ran against Naran the other day at Hamilton in a listed race. It was a bit of a left field kind of entry to run a horse like that, running maidens, running in a listed, but he should have won it. He's come out of it rated 101, and Danger Bay absolutely battered him when he ran at Hamilton, and he's rated 89. But I like the fact that he's run at Hamilton because it's a very similar circumference in the way around to Goodwood. Obviously, go up in a loop, come round the top chute, down the hill. He's a very well-balanced horse for a big horse. And I think, again, similar to Sudo, he's very well handicapped and will leave that well behind throughout the rest of the season. So Sudo in the opener on Wednesday and Danger Bay in the opener on Thursday, my 2 best bets of the week.
We asked for one, we got 2, we got the working as well. So, even if you don't get paid out, you'll feel good about it. Ross?
Yeah, I mean, again, Danger Bay is I'm really excited about him. He looks a group horse in the making, I think, for that handicap. And again, perfect case made by Andy. I think he's a lovely, lovely horse, and I think he's going places. The other one I'm looking forward to, depends what she runs in, but Zelena, who ran in the Queen Mary and went lickety-split for 4.5 furlongs, but that doesn't win you Ascot races, but it does win you 5 furlong races at Goodwood. So if she goes to the Molecombe, I think she'll be a good bet. She's also entered the Fillies Conditions race, which I think she'll be about 6-5 for that. But I think she might win a Molecombe. She'll definitely win a Conditions race against other fillies. And I think I've been waiting for her to run at Goodwood after that Ascot run. I was against her at Ascot because she was too fast for the track, but she'll be perfect for Goodwood.
And my nap of the week is Spiritual in the Oak Tree Stakes, which takes place at 1:55 on Wednesday. She's been completely underestimated for the emphasis of her win at Epsom, which has worked out really well. And I think there's not going to be much pace in this race, and she might just be able to make all and win. She's just been quietly campaigned by the Gosdens. So I quite like her. So that is our look at Goodwood. We'll be off to Galway very soon, but for the moment, it is goodbye to Ross Brierley. Enjoy glorious Goodwood, Ross.
I will, and you too, and hopefully we can get. I'll settle for 2 winners.
One will do me. Right, it is time for a rapid pivot. Have you been paying attention while all this top-class flat racing has been going on to the jumping? And have you been paying attention to the jumping in Ireland? If you haven't, don't worry about it, because ahead of Galway and the Galway Plate and the Galway Hurdle, we usher in, as Ross Brierley leaves stage right, we usher in stage left, Jane Mangan. Jane, looking forward to Galway. Sum up Galway in a few sentences for us first.
It's a test of stamina, Nick. You have to pace yourself. At the time of record, I'm fresh and bright and full of energy. By the end of the week, if I do actually get across to Goodwood, I might be a broken woman. But it's a pilgrimage every year to the west. It's something, often a place where you wouldn't meet the same faces until this time next year. It's unique in that it is a dual race day, so you have flat and national hunt. You could see a very good flat maiden winner. You could obviously have the good 100 grand BMW mile, and then you can have the plate and the hurdle. It's a unique track. It's got really undulating, tight right turn test. Doesn't suit every horse. Doesn't suit every jockey. Big fields, and it's a bit of a punter's haven, because we can often get good prices there, given how difficult it is to find the winners.
All right, that is Galway then. We're going to have a look at the place and the hurdle. We'll be paying extra places on the two big races of the week at Galway, and you can still get best odds guaranteed alongside that as well. So the Galway Plate, first of all, Jane Nürburgring won the Galway Hurdle last year. He's only a 5-year-old, but Joseph O'Brien has seen this movie a few times before, and he's been the one for the money in the anti-post markets. Currently, as I speak now, Monday, he's 4-1 with William Hill. Are you for or against the favourite in the Galway Plate?
I'm against the favourite. He's bidding to become only the fourth horse ever to win the hurdle and the plate. It was done in 1926, 1958, and Nassau, of course, in 2004 for Dermot Weld. But I think this guy's favourite because he's obvious. He won the hurdle last year off 139. I think they've been kind of working back from the Galway Plate ever since he won last year. He gets good and low at his fences. If you want to watch back his most recent win in Killarney, look at that second last fence and tell me he wasn't lucky to stand up. And I think just 4-1 in a race of this quality is a little bit skimpy for me. The company sergeant, he again, obvious interest given his Cheltenham form with Gavin Cromwell, but I do think he's a little bit exposed off a mark of 141. The next in the betting, I think, is Down Memory Lane. I think he has the heart of a pea. I think it's absolutely tiny, and I think when he sees the hill, he's going to cry. Anyway, ran a really good race, went second at Cheltenham, and I'm starting to go down through the list. I think something like Spanish Harlem could run a big race for Willie Mullins. I think 139 is a fair mark for him, and he got a confidence boost when winning last time. 3-card Bragg is a strong stare. But if I'm going to pin my colours to a mast, it's probably going to be with C Music. Everybody knows the record that the Me family, this ownership group, have at the Galway Festival. We know that Emmett Mullins is a really good plot trainer, and having won a novice handicap at the Punchestown Festival on his penultimate run, he beat a strong stare in Blizzard of Oz and Lisnagar Fortune. And I think he's coming in here off a lovely weight. I think he's going to have done a miler riding him. 138 is his rating. It's C Music for me. I'm going to oppose the favourite. I think it's just too short in a race of this nature.
Now, Andy, you're off to Galway. Jane's made a good case for one at a big price here. What do you like?
Yeah, James mentioned one of the horses I quite like here in passing. That's Anyway. I like these sort of second season chasers, the ones that are lightly raced and open to any amount of improvements. That tends to be where you need to be looking. I agree with Jane. I don't fancy Nürburgring at the prices anyway, being a 5-year-old, and he looks a little bit too skimpy. But this fella seems to have been completely overlooked, probably because he's trained by David Budds, who not many sort of UK punters anyway would have heard of. But he's done really well with this horse since acquiring him from previous connections. Unbelievably good run at Cheltenham. Let's not remember that he beat Nürburgring in that novices handicap won by Corwell Potter. We've seen what Corwell Potter went on to do next time out at Aintree. He's now rated 155, and this lad's only rated 141. There was nothing wrong with his run that day. There was no fluke about it. He's had a lovely prep. I like the fact that he had a big break, 95 days off, and then he came back and he won at Kilbeggan. That's not an easy track, by the way, to operate round, but he was very nimble on his feet. Beat one of Willie Mullins very easily. Headgear won him for the first time just to sharpen his ideas up a little bit. That seemed to work. So yeah, and the fact that he's gone round Galway as well, that's another tick in the box. If you've been round these fences, then that's got to stand you in good stead. So I like the fact that Connections know that they've got a horse that operates around Galway. They probably worked back from that Galway race last season when he beat our mate Mozzie, thinking that the Galway place is his race. So around about 12, 14 to 1 time recording, he'll do for me.
All righty. What about you, Jane, for the Galway Hurdle, which takes place at 4:30 on Thursday? It's a Grade 3. It's worth a ton of money. Willie Mullins has won the last three of the last 5 runnings of the race. But it looks as though it could be going to Joseph O'Brien if the market is anything to go by. He's got the front 2 in the market.
He does. I think it's the right favourite, and I'm actually with the favourite here. Put your hands together. There wasn't a more impressive winner at the Cheltenham Festival, I would imagine, bar maybe Factifile and the Ryanair, but Put Your Hands Together absolutely hacked up in the Fred Winter. I was in Tipperary when he ran basically in his prep race for this, the Grade 3. To me, he looked heavy in the ring, and I think obviously that was going to be used as a springboard to here. I'm not worried about his age because the last 2 runnings of the Galway Hurdle have been won by 4-year-olds in Zarak de Brave and Nürburgring, and I think he has much more juice in his mark of 141. So he's my idea of the winner. It looks like a very good renewal, and again, like you're talking about horses like Endawi, Hello Neighbour, Mr. Percy, all very good recent form. But don't forget the, I suppose, the importance of Galway form as well. If you're looking for an each way play, I think Jesse Evans is an absolute certainty to run into the money again. He's been in super form on the flat. He's been running over fences. He loves this track, and if he's going to get good ground, there's very little rain forecast. I think he's going to get his ground. He's going to be my each way play. But put your hands together for Joseph O'Brien to go back to back in the Galway Hurdle. It's very hard to make a case against him, but maybe somebody will.
Will you, Andy?
I'm not going to go against Joseph O'Brien, but I'm going to go with his second string according to the market. I'm quite happy to see all the money for Put Your Hands Together, and hoping that Mr. Percy drifts out in the market. He's around about 10 to 1 time recording. But I like his profile. The fact that he's already run round Galway has got to be seen as a massive advantage. Okay, he got beat last year by Tollstone, but Tollstone loves it round Galway as well. There was no disgrace in that. The ground would have been a little bit softer than ideal as well. And I think that's the key to him, Nick. He needs decent ground, as he proved when he won at Fairyhouse towards the back end of the season. He won a Grade 2 that day in a very fast time. And then he beat a bunch of good season handicappers in a Curragh handicap the other day. I think it was the winning your in race for the E-Ball. I mean, it was full of top quality mile and a half, mile 6 horses, and he dogged it out well that day. Again on good ground, so he comes in here in great nick. I'd imagine that the Double Green will love a runner in this race, and he's got Galway form, and he's a decent hurdler, a Grade 2 hurdler in a handicap. So that's the kind of horse I want to be backing here, particularly at double figure odds.
All right. Well, there are thoughts then on the Galway Plate and the Galway Hurdle, 2 of the feature races on what is a terrific betting week at Galway all the way through the week. And of course, don't forget, we've got Goodwood as well. It's a real treat for racing fans, whether you love flat racing or jump racing. And that's why we brought you this special episode of Inside Track. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Inside Track YouTube channel and leave a comment for us. We love your comments. Let us know your fancies this week. We'll be back, of course, for York's prestigious E-Ball Festival. And you can check out all the odds and offers at williamhill.com and on the William Hill app. This show is brought to you by William Hill, 18+. Please gamble responsibly.